Hey everyone, John here. I'm going to talk a bit about some Astra Militarum, yeah I said it Spencer, Astra Militarum tactics, kind of the way I like to think about playing Astra Militarum in 7th edition. A lot of it has to do with support, because they have some units that will work well on their own without any help, but for the most part the units need support of some kind, whether it's any of the regimental support choices that are cheap and very effective, or orders from the officers, things like that. Or sometimes it's a random element like your warlord trait that can kind of influence how you set yourself up and keep yourself together, because a lot of the guard stuff is low leadership and, like I said, needs the support of other units to be effective, or maximum effectiveness on the battlefield. So just for a quick second, let's talk about a unit that doesn't need any help. That would be a battery of wyverns, for instance. They come with everything that you need built in. They have twin linked, ignores cover, reroll a wound, so they can just sit wherever they want on their own and do their thing, and nothing needs to help them. Nothing really can help them. They have everything that could ever affect them to help them. But just your general guard squads, whether you run them in blobs or just single units, they usually need the support of your HQ and the other units and your support units to really be effective and be more than just a bunch of strength 3 shots with not that great of ballistic skill. So for starters, we talk about setup, and we'll talk about the officer, because your senior officer for your company command squad, which I personally love to have one, specifically for one thing. The way I run my armies is with having him take Kurov's Aquila, which it gives every unit within 6 inches preferred enemy. So that means even if you can't get oppressions off on your psychers, and even if you're strength 3 and they're higher toughness, you still get a better chance at hitting and wounding, because you get to reroll those ones when you're doing that for anything within 6 inches. So keeping things within 6 inches of him, even if it's just only one model in the unit, has to be close to him. If everything else is kind of spread out, that's fine, because it's kind of like the Banner of Devastation. As long as one model is within 6 inches, you get to be re-rolling those ones on your to hits and to wounds. So that's definitely good. And a way to increase that is to put your command squad in a Chimera, or if you prefer, a Taurox. And that way you get to measure from the hull, so it increases by your range by about 3 inches, that you can spread your stuff out. So thinking of that, and also since the Chimera is a command vehicle, moving into the next thing is orders. Your officer has a 12-inch order range, so you definitely want to be within 12 inches of him for that, even if you don't take Kurov's Aquila. That way you can have your guard squads have ignores cover if let's say your psyker has misfortune, so you can ignore cover and get rending. That's a combination that is definitely very good. Or the popular one is first rank, second rank fire. That's going to give each guardsman 3 shots at 12 inches, 2 shots at 24 inches. So being within that command range is definitely something you need to keep. You want to keep your command range. And then, on top of that, another 12-inch bubble is, I'm going to put Commissar Yarrick here because he comes with it if he's your warlord, but it's one of the warlord traits, is the Draconian Discipline, which will stop your units from having to take morale tests for casualties from shooting, as long as they're within 12 inches. So there are other ways to achieve something like that. Yarrick is actually a great character just on his own, so like bringing him as an HQ choice is really strong, regardless of if you use him as your warlord or not. But then let's talk about the support units here. So I've talked a bit about psychic powers. So Primera Psychers, you can take 3 per detachment. I mean, they start at 50 points. They come with a free force weapon of your choice. In this case, I've given them axes. But it's 25 points to upgrade them to the 2nd level, which is really good. For 75 points, you can be starting at a base of 6 psychic dice per phase, which is really cheap compared to a lot of armies. Like Space Marines aren't going to be able to get to that nearly as cheap, that's for sure. I mean, you're not going to compete as far as psychic dice goes with psychic heavy armies like Grey Knights or Demons, but you can get some pretty cheap, a pretty cheap starting pool of dice with this. And if you happen to run 2 command squads, you can put an astropath in each, and for less than 300 points you can be at 8 dice. I happen to like running divination always just taking whatever 2 powers I roll, because then they'll get prescience for free, which is the main one you want. And if you can get the 4-up invuln bubble, or the 4-up invuln for a unit spell, or the malediction that puts shots on that unit make or be rending, that really helps strength 3 las guns carve through stuff, especially when you're rolling. Like, I run the 50-man blob squad, so I mean you're rolling 120 las gun shots if they're close, 80 las gun shots if they're further away. So the chances of getting, especially if you get prescience and the misfortune, I mean the combination, and then also the Kurov's Aquila, you can get a lot of rends, you can get a lot of hits, a lot of wounds even at strength 3, and it really maximizes the effectiveness of those 50-point units. And then the other thing we have is the Ministorum Priests here, which these are my conversions for them. What they do is give your unit fearless. So for 25 points you can just have your unit be fearless. And now the same as with Psychers, like this goes for any support unit that you attach to a unit. The more guys you have in the unit, the more bang for your buck you get. So you can take up to 3 of these priests per detachment. So if you have, you know, like a bunch of small squads all operating on their own, you're not going to be able to make your entire army fearless. If you have 2 blob squads or like combined squads of large numbers, having the priests making your entire army fearless, your guard just marches forward or stays still, doesn't worry about getting shot, running. Definitely a boon to have there. Also, if you have a limited number of units, putting 2 of these guys in one squad is nice because they each get to do a prayer, which their prayers can either let you reroll the wounds in close combat, reroll successful or reroll unsuccessful armor saves or saving throws, so that's invulns and or armor saves and invulns, not feel no pain, because feel no pain is not a saving throw. Or they can smash if they want to. So you can have them be AP2. So if you have 2, they have to take a leadership test on their base leadership. It's only 7, so you fail at 50% of the time. So having 2 lets you make sure you get that reroll to wound, which you definitely need if you happen to be in close combat as guard. Especially if you're fearless, you're not gonna get out of there. Or if you're lucky, you can get both off. Reroll those failed armor saving throws. I mean, with just flak armor, a rerollable 5-up against, just waves of normal attacks is definitely better than just a single 5-up. So, there's that. And then the same with the Psychers. If they can cast 1 prescience on 50 guys instead of having to spread their 3 presciences out over units of 10 or 20, it definitely opens up your options. Like, you can have 1 sit with, like, if you like a tank commander, you can get them reroll in there to hits on plasma blasts or whatever kind of command tank you like. So I like to build my lists with at least 1 pretty big blob squad that's going to give me a lot of bang for my buck with the support characters here. I like to have my command squad in a Chimera to increase my ranges on my bubbles, so I can spread out a little bit more. Otherwise, I mean, I like to try and keep my army together for the most part. All the things that need support, most of the support comes from the same place, so you need to kind of keep that center with your command squad and your units. And then, other than that, I would suggest thinking about that concept of what needs support to function at its full potential and what operates well on its own. Like I said, there's very few things that operate well or at full efficiency essentially on its own. The guard army is essentially like a toolbox army. You can bring a tool to deal with just about anything. It's just utilizing those tools in the proper way and knowing which tools need the support of other tools to be the best tool it can be. So yeah, that's a quick tactica on Imperial Guard, kind of a bit of a list building, support units, and bubbles of effectiveness. Thanks for tuning in.